Good day, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Keep Six Empowerment to Unlock the Justice System. Today, we have a wonderful individual, Mr. Leon Boswell, who is able to join us from Collins Bay Institution. We'll be discussing about the journey of being incarcerated, but also his input on the violence in our community, in the gun violence, and the messages to young people. Leon, welcome. Thank you for joining us today at Keep Empowerment of the Justice System. And we also have one of our law student, Crystal, here also assisting us today for this interview. Leon, tell us, man, it's wonderful for you to be here, but how have you been doing? How have you been keeping up?
I've been keeping up pretty good.
That's good. That's really, really good. So with that said, Crystal,
So
you have some questions.
my first main question, since our topic today is gun violence, and I know you've probably seen in the news how it's just been all over the place lately, I was wondering, like thinking back to when you were a youth, what was gun violence like in Toronto? Was it the same caliber? Was it less? Was it more, I guess, assaults, like just like physical assaults, or was it the same?
Um, I would say it was similar, but I think there's been a spike in gun violence.
Okay.
I mean, in my days, the accessibility of recovering a firearm wasn't as easy as it is today. So I think because it's that much easier to get your hands on something like that, it's like spiked the violence in the city. A lot of youth are dying younger now,
100%.
and it's not just certain neighborhoods now, it's like more wide range. It's like a lot more communities are engaged in this, and it's sad to see, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think is... Oh, sorry, Richard.
We've had some extreme situation in the city in the last little while, but it's not just the city of Toronto, the GTA. It's widely spread all the way from to Ottawa, all over to Vancouver. Right?
Yeah, it's all over now. It's not just Toronto. And what do you think the root of the issue is when it comes to gun violence with the youth? Like, what do you think it's like? Is it like, like personal issues at home? Do you think it's influence from friends? Like, what do you think is the main thing right now?
Well, to be honest, I think it's a number of factors. One, it could be because of past history of violence that someone hasn't found a way to heal from or let go. Um, Another thing I think has a lot of influence over this is music, like drill rap,
Yeah. Yes.
um, and lack of opportunity
Okay.
and poverty.
I think that's some key factors. A lot of lack of opportunities for young people.
Especially our young black people in the city. I feel like that's a big
The
thing
climate
right now.
we're in. I think we start to need to look at those areas tremendously if we're talking about want to make changes.
So I remember when I was younger, we had like a lot of drop-in centers. Metro Housing had Parks and Recs that offered a lot of after-school programming to help guys with homework and stuff like that. And I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was sometime in the 90s where they took that away. And I feel like that just gives the youth a lot of idle time to be out there and find something to do.
Yeah. So you'd say we need those programs back in our communities so we're able to, keep the kids off the street and help them focus on school and their future.
Exactly. To keep them away from too much negativity. They say idle hands belong to the devil, right?
100%.
Right. Very, very good. Yeah. So with that said, even the fact that now we are seeing a lot of the younger individuals are the ones who are picking up these gun charges, but also the murder charges, right?
Yeah.
It's not there's a time where we had the older 30, 30 something plus individual. Now we're looking at the 13, 14, 15 years old.
Some even 12, yeah.
What's your take on that whole demographic?
So at that age, I believe that some of these young guys haven't reached the level of maturity yet where or have enough lived experience where they can see the consequences of their actions and how it can affect their lives. They're just at a beginning stage of feeling like a man. They want to feel grown or get some type of respect that they think they need to have to be recognized. Um, and they're making bad decisions.
Right. But what about also the subcultural part of it?
Subculture, again, I believe it's heavily influenced by music, but we need more guys like myself that's been through these streets and found our way to some type of proper footing to spend some time talking with these youth to like give them some insight on the ups and downs and how the path they're taking can affect them, cost them their life, or lead them in jail, missing out special occasions with their family, their kids, you know what I mean? And the importance of keeping Black families structured.
That's very important.
Black fathers at home to raise their children, and guide them to the right path. A lot of this happens with kids I noticed that come from broken homes.
But yeah, that's a very, very good point also. So with that said, our government right now is looking at they just spent I think $1 billion on gun buyback program where we've seen the community and also even their own police force saying that was just a waste of money. What is your take on where these resources or the government to step in and be able to, if we're going to be talking about curbing gun violence?
So, in my opinion, spending money on more policing and police units is a waste of money. It just shows the government is more focused on punishment.
True.
When really these kids just need some enlightenment. They just need some guidance. So I believe if they use most of that funding towards programs to help these kids, to provide more jobs and opportunities, it can help curb the violence. I mean, spending money towards more policing in the community, especially in communities that have distrust for police, all you really do is plant seeds of racial barriers,
That's right.
resentment, and those two lead to recidivism. You know what I mean?
100%.
Continuous criminality. You know what I mean?
100%. So, if you were out today, what program would you want to implement? What types of things would you want your program to have?
So it's funny you mentioned that because I have designed my own workshops called the
Very
Check
good.
Yourself Project.
Oh, wow.
I've had the opportunity to facilitate my first group of guys in July.
Mm-hmm.
My program mission statement is geared towards targeting guys that are self-admitted or alleged
Okay.
STG, serious threat group.
Yes.
So that's their way of labeling guys they believe are gang members and trying to disrupt that gun violence, trying to help guys change their life, see a better way to move forward in their life despite some of the negative things that led them there. I'm giving them examples of my journey and how I was involved in the streets and got a life sentence at the age of 19 when I was still young. Throughout my incarceration, I was still kind of engaged in certain activities, but I remember having a conversation with my daughter one day and I was surprised how much she was paying attention, and some of the questions she asked me for almost made me fall out my seat because I didn't think she understood some of the things that she spoke about. And that really opened my eyes to realize that I was being more of a guy from the streets than a father. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I realized that I got to be a positive role model and example for her. And that's not what I wanted her to grow up believing a man is. You know what I mean? So
100%.
that helped me. That helped me commit and dedicate myself to positive change. Um, I took it a step further and finished school, completed high school.
Good.
Since I've been here, earned a couple college credits and a couple university credits.
Very good. Congratulations.
So then I thought to myself, like, what's my vision and purpose? My vision and purpose is to see like Black unity, throughout my philosophy course at Queen's University, I realized the importance of Black consciousness. And I decided to myself, you know what, why don't I make a workshop that can help curb some of the violence in the streets and help bring Black youth together,
That's wonderful. That's awesome.
In my opinion, another Black man is in my opposition. My opposition from my experience was lack of opportunity and poverty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was my way to give back to a community that I catastrophically devastated. And I can use examples of my success and failures to help guide them to a path of righteousness. I think education is a very big thing that a lot of people need. Sometimes it's hard to kind of tell people what to do, but I feel like if we stick to it and we start with the kids, we can curb the violence. Most guys older are pretty much set in their ways. I'm not saying that means they won't change, but I think we need to focus more on the youth. If we can start pulling them away from that scene, the violence might still go on for a few years, but eventually it will go away, and I just feel like we need to focus more on the youth and capture their attention before they start paying attention to like some of the stuff I said, drill rap, all the stuff that I feel takes them off course,
Yeah. And what would you say to Black fathers right now? Like if they see that, their kids are getting involved in more, like you said, the drill rap music, maybe not the best friend groups, what would you say to those dads?
Work harder at being a positive role model. You have to work 2 jobs to give your kids the opportunity to have other positive activities to distract them or keep them away from the neighborhood until they can afford to live somewhere better. It's necessary. Do you value the life of your children and willing to do the hard work to see them make it through those type of neighborhoods? Or do you want to just let things be as it is and not know how it could affect their future? You know what I mean? Like, I love my kids enough that if I knew half of the stuff I knew today, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, I would have made a lot different choices.
And what would you tell your 19-year-old self today? If you could go back in time, you got a time machine, what would you say?
I would say, like, maybe I'm spending too much time in the neighborhood. I'm not gonna say my friends are bad people because a lot of the things that happen out there ain't just because guys are bad. And again, it's because of their circumstances.
Of course.
But the circumstance you're in doesn't mean you have to make bad decisions, And I would just tell myself to stay focused on the task, put in the work I need to put in. Just work hard at being the best. Because when you're the best, it's hard for anybody to turn you away, reject you, especially when it comes to like employment. When you're the best, color doesn't matter anymore. The only color that matters is green because any supervisor is going to want the most effective person for the job to further their bottom line or their productions,
the fact right there. What factor or circumstances led you to become involved with a firearm?
Protection, you know, it's more protection. I know to someone looking from the outside in, they might just think, you know, look at this guy, he's just a bad guy, he's carrying a gun, he wants to kill people. But I mean, when you see lives taken and, you know, you're outside and unexpectedly a car pulls up and starts firing shots and you have nowhere else to go. I mean, your family can't afford to just pick up and move, so you're kind of stuck in your situation. You know, it's fight or flight. And I mean, I took up a gun to defend myself, probably more to intimidate people than to actually use it. But when you do have that in your possession, you never know what's going to happen when you have it. Is your intentions might just be to scare people, but you might end up killing somebody, you know?
Because again, a lot of times I think people don't understand there's emotions and situation that trigger an individual into a lot of these situations, right? And it's fair to say that a lot of times young people is not able to control their emotions, right? Until later on down in life, they're able to look at it and then end up regretting the whole thing, right?
So that I call that emotional maturity. You know, at that age, we lack emotional maturity, and as you get older, you have the emotional maturity where you're able to look at the wisdom in your feelings rather than to reach to the energy in them. Maybe that's something we need to teach the youth as well. You know, how to be more emotionally mature.
And for your program that you developed and you from there, which is a live life experience, how is it that you're going about? Are you doing that program there with, you know, other individuals?
Yes, they allow me to facilitate 6 guys at a time.
Okay.
Good.
I'm hoping to bump it to 8.
Are they usually younger than you, or are they usually around the same age as you?
So some of them are younger than me, some of them are close to my age, you know. But yeah, for sure, it's mostly gonna be some of the younger guys.
All right. Very good. And are you keeping evaluation on this program? Like that's your, of your, you know, the outcomes with the individuals? Because this could be something that, out of fairness, could be very beneficial for people inside. But also, I mean, we're all aware that when it comes to the system, they build programs, but the program is built for that one, you know, one size fit everyone, right? Everyone is supposed to kind of work with that.
Okay, so like,
go ahead.
When I proposed this workshop, it was pretty to address that because you're right, the programs inside do have a one size fits all approach, and just by the material used, like the skills and tools they teach you to like control yourself or to think first apply for everybody. But a lot of the examples used seem to be the example of a middle class white person's life, and doesn't reflect the circumstances or reality of visible minorities. So I designed this workshop to address cultural relevancy and cultural responsivity, you know what I mean? And help these guys like fit in a society that's different while still preserving and maintaining your cultural identity and cultural expressions.
And what does that look like exactly? Can you give me like a little bit of an example?
So I mean, like, for the most part, I still wear fitted hats backwards, you know, like I still wear urban wear.
Yes.
And when I meet somebody new, I can tell by the way they look at me that, oh, here's another gangbanger guy or whatever their perception is until they listen to me speak. Once they hear me speak and find out what I'm about, I can see how their whole demeanor towards me changes. And, you know, so a lot of times we're judged by how we look rather than the content of our character.
That's very common. What do you believe are the long-term effect of gun violence on our community?
It's going to continue to break up homes. It's going to lead some of the youth away from their true purpose and potential to a and lead to their own detriment and demise. You know what I mean? Everybody loses. The person who actually loses a family member and the guy that gets thrown in jail because his family has to live without him too, and see him whenever I guess they can. You know, so like nobody's the winner really here. And I mean, you can take out your frustration on somebody, but it ain't gonna bring back who you lost. You know what I mean? It's just adding to the losses.
In your opinion, what could have been done to prevent your situation?
Spending less time in my neighborhood. You know, like sometimes these things happen, you don't really expect it to happen. It can just land right in your front door. And in that moment, you got to make a decision. And obviously, I made a bad one. But like I said, I believe that if we spend more time doing more positive things, whether it could be some type of mentorship program, some type of intern programs, or more after school activities, sports, you know, even if they opened up studios, because I know Toronto has a big music scene right now, and I'm pretty sure a lot of kids would like to do some type of performance arts. You know what I mean? So like, we spend more time doing things we're good at. I feel like it can change that environment in the communities, but we need to invest in it.
Yes.
And I believe Black people need to spend more money with Black-owned businesses and organizations. Because from my understanding, the money, a dollar in a Black market only lasts us 3 hours. We spend our money buying designer wear, all kind of stuff that ain't owned or made by Black people. And it's sad, you know?
Yeah, that's the truth.
We need more opportunities so we can start building generational wealth.
Yes, that's a big one. That's a big key.
That's definitely a big key. But also, it's we as a community need to come together to be able to work together. It's been a silo for centuries, and everyone is in a pocket doing their thing, and that's been a challenge to say the least. The other thing I had to ask you, how has your experience in the justice system shaped your views on gun violence?
Well, I mean, being here, you have the time to like actually self-reflect and do your self-reflection. I mean, when you're being honest to yourself, you have the opportunity to see where, you know, you have strengths, weaknesses, shortcomings, where you might have made mistakes and made bad decisions, and how you could improve yourself as a person. And it starts from forgiving yourself. Once you can forgive yourself, you can start to heal to a better person or a better version of yourself. But I believe most of my change came from like seeing it from the other side and not actually being a part of what's going on. And as a Black man, it's sad to see how much Black men die every year, you know what I mean? And a lot of the guys, whether they're your friend or not, it always seems to be the guy that everybody liked, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of good men are dying. And I've been in prisons that have one side of the city in them and another side of the city in them. And I've been in both populations, and I've met guys that I like in both populations, you know what I'm saying? And I can see like there's a lot of goodness in all of us. It's just the street stuff is keeping us divided, you know? And maybe if you get a lot of guys that's been through it from all the different neighborhoods to kind of sit in a room and talk and discuss about some of the stuff going on, we can probably like begin or initiate some type of peace, you know?
Peace and healing.
Yeah.
So what would you say to youth right now that I guess are involved in gangs, or I guess being encouraged to be involved in gangs and gun violence? What would you say to them?
I would say to them that, you know, it's not everything that glitters is gold, you know what I mean? Sometimes something at the moment may seem like it's worth having and it's valuable. And I understand, you know, you probably feel like you're going to make a lot of money, you're going to have a lot of jewelry, cars, clothes, girls, but comes with consequences, you know, and maybe they're focusing more on the good they think comes from it as opposed to the negative. And the negative always outweighs the good. Living a life like that, you have to be lucky every day to survive or to not to go to jail. But all it takes is one bullet or one police stop to change your life for the worse. You know what I mean? So like, it's not really worth it. When you have to sit in a place like this and just watch like all the years go by, missing out on so much opportunities you could have potentially had out there, you know, or growing up without your kids. I mean, it takes a toll on you, you know, and it can impact you for the worse, or it can be what pushes you to do better. But you're never going to know till you end up there. So I think they just need to focus more on school, educate themselves, and give themselves a better future. You know what I mean? That's guaranteed, a guaranteed future.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. But even with that said, how long have you been in now?
I'm going on 24 years.
24 years. Now, with that said, I'm just like to go to another area, the other side of the road, so to speak. 24 years in, how has it been for you when it comes to the system? Because we understand over the years the system is somewhere that it continues to suppress, young Black men and women in the community.
So I mean, it's
dealing with that.
Yeah, your mental health. How you've been able to deal and cope and I guess go with going through all the years.
So I mean, I'll be the first to say that there's a lot of oppression in here. There's a lot of social injustices. Maybe in the beginning of my sentence, I would have said, these people are racist. But I wouldn't say that today, that the people that work here are racist. I'll just say the policies and laws is discriminatory, and there's not equal opportunity for everybody. You know what I mean? So we got to make some transformational change and take a paradigm shift away from some of the old policies, because those policies were implemented in a time where discrimination, racial barriers, and all of that was accepted. You know, so I know like there's a lot of initiatives today, like the anti-racism initiative, the Black Social History Initiative, and the Black Justice Strategy Initiative, targeted towards eradicating discrimination, systemic barriers within CSC and government overall. I believe like I've been a victim of that throughout the years. In more recent years, I feel like I've been finding ways to navigate through the system, even though some of these policies are in place, because I'm very vocal. And with the assistance from the government to help implement these changes are happening, but slow, you know? It could get stressing at times, overwhelming at times, but because I have family that love me, I have two amazing daughters that I know are counting on me, somehow, some way, and I guess I was raised by my mother to be a strong person. I always find my way back to my feeding, you know? And I'm just dedicated to getting out of prison. I'm dedicated to having a positive future. and that's what keeps me going, you know. But yeah, there's times where, you know, it's very stressful and overwhelming, and you might even feel like giving up, but that's not in me, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, man, that's understandable. Like there's an old saying that they say, only the strong survive.
So there's a saying that I go by: tough times don't last, but tough guys do.
That's right.
Yeah, it's so true. How can society better support individual at risk of becoming involved in violent crimes?
Well, I believe that if society, government, neighboring communities can all acknowledge that discrimination happens, there's marginalized communities that have a disadvantage, lack of equal opportunity, and they validate our experiences and see how lack of opportunity and poverty affects our communities, and we're more supportive in programming to be given to the youth in these communities, it will go a long way. I just feel like we're only looked at in a disparaging way. Like, people just think bad of guys from our community. They don't recognize that there's a lot of good guys that have potential to do a lot of great things if they're given the opportunity. Our community at times, I feel like, feels disenfranchised, and we're not acknowledged or recognized for our contributions to society. It's like we don't exist. And if Black people have been in Canada and the US since the beginning of slavery, when European settlers came to Canada, then why aren't we recognized just as much as anybody else if we've been here just as long? You know what I mean? And to still be fighting for things as Black men, or to be recognized. The Black community has no faith in the government, you know what I mean?
And how do you feel that we could even tackle that area there itself, like even to be able to get our community to come together to build that structure, to have that, to make that change, but also to have that confident, you know, where we can see something from the government that to say that yes, you know, this is definitely needed, and you know, we as a community to work at it together.
So I know right now there's a DEI initiative, diversity, equality, and inclusion. I just think we need to speed that up instead of taking baby steps. Speed it up a little quicker. Start appointing certain people that we believe have the education to lead certain initiatives and allow them to lead, like start putting more funding into these programs and stuff we spoke about earlier, and acknowledge we're here, you know what I mean? Acknowledge our truths and the reality of the situation, and stop running from a tough, challenging conversation, you know? We all know that racism existed. There's racial barriers, and I feel like the sooner we can acknowledge it and speak in a room how to move forward, instead of one side feeling attacked and one side feeling victimized, this is the pace we're going to continue to move at. I mean, racism, the laws and all that happened long before us. Nobody alive today is responsible for whatever was set in place or what happened with us. So instead of feeling victimized when we say, well, European settlers did this, and feeling attacked, I believe the term's called white fragility, you know, and people from our community just complaining and not actually taking initiative to do better, to prove that we're capable of doing better, we're going to be stuck here, you know. So we need to be proactive on our side too. It shouldn't just be a lip service thing or complaining and crying about what we have and don't have. I think we need to actually put our best foot forward and show that we belong here we have the skills, the education to make things better with the support of the government and funding, you know?
What do you think our first step should be as the Black community? Like, what's the first thing we should do to start getting towards that, to show people that we know we have the capability to do better?
We got to get a lot of people at the table and start talking. And I mean, like, people from the professional side of things involved in like law enforcement, the court system, maybe even corrections, and other Black professionals that are law-abiding citizens, and then maybe a few guys that experienced the criminal justice system, that changed their life for the better, that, you know, been through it. Maybe a few people from the communities right now that haven't been through it but are experiencing what they go through out there, to kind of sit at the table. The guys can speak where they feel like they need help or why they make certain choices and decisions in their life, and the professionals can find ways they can help them and support them to avoid going down that slippery slope still, you know? But it all starts from conversation, and you need all the people that have the best information or knowledge or experience to sit there and talk, because the people that experience it are going to be the geniuses. A lot of time these decisions are made by people that have the theoretical approach to things, but they don't really have the practical or empirical knowledge. You know what I mean?
100%.
For instance, with the programs we have here, I mean, you can look at somebody explain what's going on in your community, but then they don't look like you.
Yeah.
And you know they never lived a day or second of their life in an environment like that. So they lack credibility from the guys that are participating in that program. Where a guy like me now, facilitating my workshop, guys are receptively listening. They're like, want to hear what I'm going to say.
Audio cut out.
What happened?
Can't hear you, Leon.
You went muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead. Continue.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So I was saying, like, now a guy like me facilitating my workshop, I can see how receptive the guys in the classroom are, because one, they see someone that looks like them. Two, they know what I tell them, I experienced this, they know it's facts. Three, they see the success I've been having in here. And when I tell them my way, my journey in here and how I got to where I'm at today, they hold it close to them. And the guys that are really serious about change will use it to their benefit, because they can see the proof right in front of them. You know what I mean? So I have the credibility from these guys, and they know that I'm sincere in my attempt to help guide them. You know what I mean? When you see someone that don't look like you or don't understand anything about your reality, it's hard to think they're sincere. It's hard to think they're credible, or that they're really there for your best interests, especially if their material doesn't apply to your circumstances.
That's a well-known fact. Even the situation where individuals are even working on trying to overcome their trauma, and having someone discussing with someone that has no idea of the experience that they're expressing is very difficult, you know, for that person. You know, it's challenging.
So we need more Black mental health workers in the system,
100%.
especially in here. Again, when you sit down and talk to a mental health worker here, majority of the times they're like, I get it, I understand, they write things down or whatever, but the most they'll tell you is skills you can use to like try to calm yourself down. They have no real advice on your reality, you know? And we need more Black people at all different levels of government, period, you know?
So even with that said, what support do you think that former offender needs to successfully reintegrate and help others avoid similar path?
Say that again?
What support do you feel or do you think former offenders need to successfully reintegrate and help others avoid the similar situation or path?
Well, I guess I would say we need support from our case management teams, first of all, to be able to get out there. I think more light has to be shed on our accomplishments within the institutions rather than the incidents we may find ourselves in time to time. Like, even for myself, most of my accomplishments are acknowledged within the institution, but when I get my paperwork, majority of what they're talking about is past incidents. Yes, they do speak about some of your accomplishments, but I don't feel like they go into enough detail how to bolster that the way they bolster an incident. You know what I mean? It seems more pejorative. You know what I mean? And they'll still be talking about all the accomplishments you had within the year or the review period. But for some reason, the few incidents you've gotten to over the years seem to hold more weight than the good. And that discourages guys because they feel like no matter how hard they try, someone only recognizes the bad. So I feel like guys need to hear more words of affirmation. We need more acts of service done to help us. I just feel like a better job can be done to support and assist us from within. And I feel like that will give someone the confidence and self-esteem to move forward in a way to try to better yourself so they can help others. Because if you can't help yourself, you can't really help anybody else. You know what I mean? But it all stems from how you see yourself. You know, the faith you have in your potential. And if they're only allowing you to see the bad in yourself, and how are you going to help other people, you know? And eventually you might start to even believe that, you know what I mean? That you're not good enough or whatnot. So I feel like it starts from the people that are supposed to be here to help us.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you so much. Well, we've really hit some really deep topic today, and I know it's been challenging, you know, across the board. I have my own lived experience, so I can speak on it and relate to where you're coming from. Before we leave, I would really like to ask you, do you have any quotes that you live by that you can pass on to our viewers?
So there's two that strikes my mind as we speak. One is from James Baldwin. Not everything faced will be changed, but nothing will be changed until it's faced. That's one. Two, like the late great Martin Luther King Jr. said, we see the need for nonviolent gadflies that will create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the deep, dark depths of racism and prejudice to the majestic heights of brotherhood and understanding.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for joining.
Of course.
Part of this. And Leon, thank you again.
Thank
and
you
folks,
so much.
Stay tuned. We'll be having another segment coming soon of empowerment to unlock the justice system. Keep 6 empowerment to unlock the justice system, where we go behind the walls and speak to people with lived experience. Join us for our next episode. And once again, thank you, everyone. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.